A pair of Texans leading the way this week for the CJ CUP Byron Nelson at TPC Craig Ranch. Of course, Scotty Scheffler is a favorite. He is plus 270 at FanDuel Sportsbook. The second Texan, though, is Jordan Spieth, 18-1, second shortest odds to win for this week. Today, we're going to dive into the CJ CUP Byron Nelson, breaking down our thoughts on TPC Craig Ranch, whether anyone can top Scotty for this week, and our top bets and DFS plays over on FanDuel. Welcome on into the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here as I am every Tuesday by Brandon Gdula. Check him out on X at Gdula13. He is on Blue Sky at Gdula. Check out his work at FanDuel Research, where he is a senior managing editor. Brandon, Scotty Scheffler back in the field for this week, and he is the runaway favorite, but Jordan Spieth in contention. How are we feeling on this Tuesday?
Good. Are you like, does it matter where you were born to be a Texan?
So are you asking because of Will Zalatoris?
No, I'm asking because of Scotty Scheffler.
Oh, he's a Texan. Because Will Zalatoris, I think, was born in California, but like is a Cowboys fan. I think like identifies more with Texas. So I thought that was the leading question here.
No, I mean, we didn't mention Willie. We talking about Scotty, but I always think of him as from Texas, although he's technically from New Jersey. So I just, what is it, a demonym? Is that what that's called?
I mean, he lives there now.
No, I was asking, like, what is it? What's more important? Because I guess I would say
he moved to Dallas when he was 6. He's from Texas.
Okay.
I lived in Texas for like 6 months when I was 2. Am I a Texan or am I from New Jersey? Like
you lived in Texas
for like 6 months when I was 2. Yeah,
that explains the drawl he got.
Yeah, definitely.
My Spanish teacher in high school. So I was born in Virginia, moved to Pennsylvania when I was going to first grade, and my Spanish teacher in high school always said that I had a Southern drawl because of being born in Virginia. And I don't think that I do. I think that was the joke, but it's now one of my favorite things to say.
Honestly, Scotty being like 6 years in Jersey and having, I assume, like Jersey parents, but be living in Texas for most of his life makes his like voice make a lot of sense to me. It's always been like intriguing the way he talked. And I'm like, oh, okay. You put a little bit at like a 10% Jersey into 90% Texas. I actually think that makes a lot of sense now.
I don't know. I guess I'll have to listen closer whenever he does finally speak, but I don't know. We got way off track. I said we were probably going to, this would probably be a pretty straightforward show because it's kind of Scotty or bust, and sorry for derailing us. But I think we learned some stuff.
I think I learned something. I think I learned that you say someone is from a place if they moved out of there despite when they were 6 years, despite moving from there when they were 6.
I'm literally asking like how it's determined.
Well, if you move when you're 6 and you don't move back, and then you currently live there and you've lived there since you were 6, you're a Texan.
Yeah, like that's fine, but like you wouldn't say that necessarily.
Also, it depends on the narrative. If they're playing in Jersey and I wanted to label it like a home court advantage for Scotty, I'm going to do it. So it's like depends on the narrative or the agenda I want to push. And I feel like you got to factor that in as well.
Yeah, I think it is a lot of picking and choosing. So
straighten up.
Lots to think about here.
Absolutely. Lots of very important things in the wheelhouse for this week. As mentioned, we're going to dive into TPC Craig Ranch, letting you know keys to this course. We'll break down golfers who have done well here in the past, best current form. Then we'll dig in to our favorite bets at FanDuel Sportsbook and the top DFS plays on FanDuel as well. But first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel Research Podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. PGA shows every Tuesday right here in the exact same feed to get you ready for that week's event, talking best bets and DFS picks. To get those as they are posted, search for FanDuel Research Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe if you like what you hear. Leave us a 5-star rating and review as well. And of course, these shows do go on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. Go to YouTube there, subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate those of you who have done so already. Other reason this is a big week, not just the CJ Cup. secondary big event as well. FanDuel is the first sportsbook app where you can bet the Kentucky Derby. Right now, all customers can get a no-sweat Derby bet. That means you'll get racing bonus back if your bet doesn't win. The app is super easy to use. You don't have to be a horse racing expert to get in on the Derby Day action. So, bet America's #1 race with America's #1 sportsbook. Just visit FanDuel for your chance at a no-sweat bet for the Kentucky Derby. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino or 18 plus and present in DC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit MD Gambling Help Oregon, Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Option required. Verified FanDuel Racing account required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable racing site credit that expires 9 days after receipt. Max refund $10 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at racing.fanduel.com. Offer not available in DC, Kansas, North Carolina, New Jersey, sorry, Scotty, Tennessee, or Vermont. Churchill Downs, Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Oaks, and the Twin Spires are registered trademarks of Churchill Downs Incorporated. Let's dig in now to TPC Craig Ranch and break down our keys to victory for this week. Brandon, let's start things off here by taking a look at the course. 7,569 yards in a par 71. If you somehow remember the numbers from last year, A, good memory. B, they're different from what they were because this course went a pretty big renovation since last year's event. Some of it is irrigation infrastructure kind of stuff. There was some new turf put in, etc. But they also did lengthen 4 of the 18 holes for this week's event. There are 156 golfers in the field, and the top 65 plus ties will make the cut after the first 2 rounds. So lengthened course this week at TPC Craig Ranch. Brandon, what data stood out at this course when they've come here previously?
Yeah, probably why I was talking demonyms and not wanting to get into this was it's a little bit of a confusing week for
demonym.
We just went over this. It's like the noun that you use to refer to someone, as in a Texan, a Pennsylvanian,
Iowegian. Yes.
I don't know. There's probably other cool ones, but I don't know them.
Yes.
Is it Wisconsin?
Ascani? Is that derogatory? I actually don't know if that's like. Sometimes I never know. Like, I don't know.
Minnesota. I don't know. Well, hey, we got our demonym draft coming up in a couple weeks, so we'll get around to it. But yeah. So it's the CJ Cup like rebranding, but what we need to know is that TPC Craig Ranch has hosted 4 PGA Tour events leading into this year, as Jim already laid out. There have been renovations, been lengthened. I've not been able to confirm this fully, but I think along with that, they narrowed the fairways a bit. The GCSAA PDF breakdown. So if you're not doing this already, I recommend heading to the GCSAA website and digging into some quick course data. But they list the average fairway width of 25 to 28 yards, which would be pretty narrow. Not like super, super narrow, but a lot narrower than before. Data Golf had it around 37 yards on average. So could just be a difference of measurements, etc., but might even come with narrower fairways. Greens are still large, over almost 6,800 square feet on average. PGA Tour average is usually just over 6,000 square feet, so a little bit bigger than average. And that's led to some good scoring, some, quote unquote, easier scoring. Winning scores have been 23, 23, 26, and 25 under. You got to be at least 4 under to make the cut over the last 4 years, but it's been 6, 4, 5, and 6. So basically, you got to make birdies. You make birdies by making putts, but you get birdie putts by ball striking it and getting greens in regulation. So typically when that's the case, you can downplay around the green play a little bit, which is kind of nice that we can, rely on a narrative, because Taylor Pendrith won here last year, and that is his one glaring weakness in his profile. But as far as like everything else, the distance is going to be a little bit different. Prior to that, it was a pretty straightforward, like, ho-hum. Everything was about PGA Tour average in terms of importance, and you just got to make birdies and basically, and this is kind of always true, but there's sometimes a little bit more to it. The best putters of the best tee to green players would just win. It's kind of what we've seen in the past. And there is a little bit of a lessened emphasis on approach here historically, but it's not enough for me to bump it out of the number one key stat for the week, because again, you get birdie chances by hitting greens and putting it close. So key stats for me this week going to be strokes gained approach, strokes gained off the tee with an emphasis more on driving distance than just accuracy, but I don't want to go pure distance because I don't know if that's enough. Birdie or better rate, and then proximity from 150 plus yards, I think is going to be kind of, if you want to get a little more granular, that's where I'd look. But to be honest, looking for ball strikers who can make some birdies.
And Scotty Scheffler definitely fits that mold. So it makes sense why he would be plus 270 for this week, in addition to the fact that he is kind of good at this golf thing. Let's take a look at the golfers who have done well historically. As mentioned, Brandon, only 4 events of data for this course because CJ CUP previously was played abroad, now being played at TPC Craig Ranch. Which golfers have noteworthy form at this course in this iteration of the CJ CUP?
Yeah, so I'm just pulling total strokes gained over the last 4 years. So some of these samples, maybe not full, not totally all 4 years, but good finishes will get you up here. And I'll quickly go over some guys with just one start, but a good start as well. But leading the way is Jordan Spieth. I did miss the cut last year, but was 2nd and 9th prior to that. 3 straight top 20s for Spieth, T18 at the RBC Heritage, T14 at the Masters, and T12 at the Valero Texas Open. Very volatile profile, but this is not the last time you'll hear about Jordan Spieth by any means this week. Scotty Scheffler, and I guess not to bury the lead, you're pulling it up. For anybody not watching, Jim pulled up FanDuel Sportsbook, looking at the outright win odds. Scotty Scheffler now plus 270. Was plus 280 for a while, so there's some interest in Scotty even at those numbers, which is pretty wild because like you can get golfers in like four golfer groups at like plus 270, and it's Scotty against 150 other guys, which is just crazy to think about. But he's played well here. Three made cuts in his starts: 5th, 15th, and 47th. No wins in 2025 yet, but top 25 in all 8 starts. It does feel like it's a matter of time for Scotty. The odds are suggesting that maybe this is the time. Do you want to pause on Scotty, or should we just keep rolling and we'll talk about Scotty more later?
He's the lead, so let's just talk about him right now. If you want to win the event, you got to beat Scotty. And when I look at the golfers who I like, in theory, I think have the best value, a lot of them are long shots. Obviously, it's a tougher pitch to say, oh, Jordan Spieth can beat Scotty Scheffler. Sure, fair enough. But like Jacob Bridgman is a guy I like this week, 55-1. There's a mental block there of saying Jacob Bridgman can beat Scotty Scheffler at a course where he has done well in the past. Yeah. How much does that influence your betting card for this week, knowing that there is a roadblock out there, but as a consolation, it is just one roadblock versus having Rory, Xander, Morikawa in the field?
Yeah, it is part of it. And the flip side of that too is you're not getting Rory, Xander, right, Morikawa, Ludwig, who can go out and beat Scotty. Now, these are all pro golfers. It's not that everyone's going to crumble if they're in a final pairing with Scotty or anything like that, but you do have to think about that. And so I think we're kind of taking somewhat different approaches in terms of the outright perspective. Seems like you're a little bit longer. I'm more interested in getting pretty solid odds on that whole second tier if I just lump everyone together of, if Scotty wasn't in this field, what do we think Spieth's odds would be? We could figure that out. But point being, 18-1 for him, and it's not like he's clearly the man behind Scotty, but
right,
if Scotty finishes T10, like Spieth can go beat him. He can beat the rest of this field. So I think I'm a little more interested in that second tier. Although I will just kind of throw it out there, like my model has Scotty around plus 340. So as hard as it is to wrap your head around plus 270 being like a value, it's really not that far off. It is like 3 full percentage points, give or take.
Yeah.
So the difference of plus 270 and plus 340 is small if you think about it that way. But in terms of the probability, it is pretty large. So I can't get to Scotty personally, but I do want to make sure that the golfers I'm betting to win outright, I feel like if they were in a final pairing, that they wouldn't shy away.
Sure.
So that is part of it for me.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I do want to go back to what you were alluding to there with that second tier, because I think I'm a bit lower on that second tier, which is why I'm okay taking swipes at longer shots this week and not as interested in that second tier. I think that Spieth is the most interesting name in that second tier. So I agree with you from that perspective. I just couldn't quite sell myself on 18-1 for him. So I'm not super high on Sungjae. I know he's had some really good finishes research. I'm sure we'll talk about later on, but the iron play is still not great. And then it's like Byung-Hun An, Siwoo Kim, Sam Burns. I have a lot of questions about those guys too. So for me, I'm lower on that second tier, leading to me jumping beneath it. And honestly, I think that guys are guys who you could label as being in that tier is kind of where I settle in at. I just think that it's a big blob versus a definitive tier behind Scotty. I think that's kind of the difference that we're seeing here personally.
Yeah, that whole second tier is flawed to some degree, but I also think you're seeing solid enough numbers on a lot of those names for me. So I don't think there's a correct answer. I mean, I have my model and it says that there's certain correct answers, but if you think it's Scotty versus the field at that rate, you might be better off taking the approach that you're taking. I think that Scotty is, I don't want to say due for a win, but
yes,
his putting from within 15 feet is good. He's 85th percentile on tour this year. He's 19th percentile on putts longer than that. That screams regression in the positive sense for his putter. He's already such a good player otherwise, tee to green, that it's just a matter of time before he goes out and, frankly, at this field, wins by 4 or 5. Wouldn't shock anyone. Shouldn't shock anyone, I should say.
Nope.
But with that said, I still am a little bit higher on some of the other guys who can spike, because if we're talking outrights, it doesn't matter if you're third or 30th or miss the cut. If you want some volatility, I think there are some names that meet the criteria. So that's where we are with Scotty. That's a whole betting conversation. There's going to be a whole probably easier DFS conversation.
DFS, you just use it. It's really easy.
So I know we talked a lot about Scotty, but it was necessary for someone plus 270 to win a PGA Tour event in the year of 2025, which just unreal.
Correct. Who else has noteworthy form at TPC Craig Ranch?
Cousin Seamus Power. Missed the cut here last year. I probably should have pulled all the guys who played here all 4 years, but he would fit. Missed the cut last year, 19th, 17th, and 9th for him. Was T18 at Punta Cana last week, or the week prior, I guess, technically. Not really counting the Zurich. I'll reference it a little bit, but not factoring it in. I'll use it as a positive if someone finished well with a teammate, but not going to knock anyone for missing the cut. But he did miss the cut at the Valero and the Houston Open, but was T8 at Valspar. So not the worst situation. DFS salary is 9,900. Not a range that I'll be in much just due to the fact that Scotty's there. Siwoo Kim, I think, that whole second tier, like the 11K range from a DFS standpoint, way less interested there. Betting wise, it's not as bad though. Like Spieth at 18-1 or Spieth at, I think, 11-9. I've cared so little even to look at his salary. Like I'm not playing Spieth much in DFS because I need to get to Scotty and a lot of lineups. But anyway, Siwoo Kim's salary is 11,400. He's played here all 4 years, 13th, second, missed cut, and 55th. He's been T8 at RBC Heritage after missing a cut. And both of those Texas Opens, Texas Open and Houston Open. Steven Yeager, 10,900, 45-1, 20th, 11th, and 38th. Been fine. T52 at Masters, T32 at the RBC Heritage. Gaining a lot of strokes with approach. Kind of interesting, but again, it goes back to, do you think you can win / are you getting too many guys at 10,900 only in non-Scotty lineups realistically? So take that for what it's worth. Ben on 4th and 14th in his 2 starts, 5 straight made cuts, always doing work with wedges, which is not necessarily the key here this year, but maybe it plays a bit differently and maybe that becomes more important. Joseph Bramlett missed the cut last year, 8th, 5th, and 47th, but he's 220-1 to win, splitting time on the Korn Ferry Tour, so no interest there. Ryan Palmer, I'm gonna mention that he does well here, but I'm gonna skip over anything else because he's kind of going through it. Matt Kuchar missed cut last year, 43rd, 12th, 17th. Salary's 8,900. He's made 6 of 7 cuts in 2025. The added length probably isn't going to help him here to continue playing well, but he's a pretty good golfer still in the right setup, so don't mind him. And if you want to play Scotty in DFS, you're going to be living in that 8,000 range a lot for the rest of your lineup, more often than not. So just wanted to shout him out. And then 4 guys with a top 10 in their only start here: Austin Eckroat, salary's 9,300; Taylor Pendrith, 11,500; Peter Malnati, minimum salary; and Jake Knapp, 10,300. Anybody else jump out to you?
Yeah, I want to talk about Pendrith. I know we'll talk about him later, so I don't feel the need to expand on him a ton. I will note that the reason we're talking about him later is not my fault, and I want to make that on the record. It is not my fault this time when Taylor Pendrith gets brought up and disappoints. Do not blame me for once.
Hey, 155 golfers disappoint every week, so
that's true. That's true.
I mean,
and he has come through with some good T10s for us, so you're right.
I guess it's not 100, but more often than not, guys are disappointing in golf. So
fair enough. Fair point. Let's talk about the guys who have not been disappointing recently and dig into current form. Brandon, obviously Scotty Scheffler will top the charts no matter what kind of split you want to look at. Past 5 days, past month, past 3 months, past 6 months, past decade, whatever it may be, he's going to lead the way in terms of current form. Who else stands out as far as having the best form entering the CJ Cup?
Yeah, I know you just did the Scotty thing, but I do need to just lay out how big the gap is for Scotty over the last 3 months. He is at a plus 2.59 true strokes gained per round, according to Data Golf, just for field strength. So 3 months, 2.59 strokes gained over the world average male professional golfer. It's 1.34 shots per round better than anyone else in this field. So if everyone plays,
you had said before he could win by 4 strokes, it wouldn't surprise anyone. If everyone plays their baseline, their literal exact baseline, he'd win by almost 6 strokes. So
yeah, it's 5.4. Yeah. And he's at a plus 2.89, so 0.3 shots per round better over the last 6 months, which is 1.7 shots per round better than anyone else. So if everyone played to their baseline, he would win by 6.8 shots in terms of a strokes. So we've said enough about Scotty, but I wanted to make it clear how much better he is than the rest of this field. So who's next up? Well, it's actually Taylor Moore at a 1.26 true strokes gained per round. Salary's just 9,500. Did miss the cut at the Valspar and the Zurich, but I don't care about that. Irons are not ideal, but he's top 25 in strokes gained off the tee and around the green over the last 3 months. I struggle with Moore a lot. My model used to love him just because it generally, focuses on total strokes gained and uses a long-term method to sort of weed out some variance in terms of how you're gaining strokes, but his irons just aren't great long-term. So I struggle with that, but I will point out that he's in good form. Jordan Spieth, did you have more?
Yeah, I didn't get to more in our betting section for today because he'd shortened quite a bit since Monday. But I did bet him when he was 70. So I'm in on him from a betting perspective if he were to re-lengthen a bit prior to Thursday. And then also I think he's not the worst top 10 bet. And then for DFS, $9,500, that's a really good salary because I assume salaries are based on opening odds, even though the salaries are not out when odds opened. And he had shortened at that point. So I think he's one of the better DFS plays this week at $9,500 personally, despite the fact the irons are not good.
Yeah, I mean, over the last 3 months, he's 9th off the tee, 22nd in both around the green and putting, but 68th in approach. He's not super short by any means, so he kind of has it, especially if this course doesn't play too tough and the greens are bigger. Like, you can take that angle too. I still want iron play, but I also can't get too particular because nobody's really perfect in this field other than Scotty. So you got to take some concessions somewhere. And having a good game aside from the irons is fine, especially for it, again, translating to success over long samples, which is kind of what Moore's been able to do for the most part. Even though this is a 3-month sample, he kind of stands out from a long-term sample as well. Next up is Jordan Spieth. Again, salary for DFS on FanDuel is $11,900, but I'm more interested for him in a betting from a betting standpoint. He's at a 1.19. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that like that's just an okay number over the last 3 months, but it's really volatile. Like, he's either good or bad. And if you're talking going out and winning a golf tournament, doesn't matter if you're bad, you just want him to win. So he has that ability. He's been top 20 in 3 straight at different setups in different locations. I think Spieth has enough leverage and juice to go out and get a win in his home state. Jacob Bridgman's next up at a 1.18. Salary's $10,600. He's been top 15 in 4 of 7 starts since March with some hot putting. Tee to green game's just okay. Siwoo Kim, 11,400. Also someone who's played well here historically. 1.09. Missed the cut at the Zurich, T8 at the RBC Heritage, and missed the cut at the Texas and Houston Open. Putter's not great. So like, this is the kind of form we're talking about. Lots of missed cuts, just okay form. And those are actually, outside of Moore, all of those guys have salaries of 10,000 or above. But the list of golfers over the last 3 months with at least a full shot gained per round, 2, 4, 6 names, which is not super substantial. And 4 of those have salaries of 10,000 or higher. The 2 that don't, again, Taylor Moore at a 1.26, and then bumping down into that, I feel like I always expand the 10K range and above just for context, but the real reason that we do this segment is to look at golfers with salaries of 10,000 or lower who are in the best form. Ryo Hisatsune is at a 1.07. His salary is 9,400. He's got 3 straight top 20s in 4 of his last 5 starts. Solid stats across the board. Has played here, was T13 in his lone start. He's going to be one of my preferred DFS plays due to a sort of balanced game and the fact that going hard at Scotty, so I got to be in that below 10K range pretty often for the rest of my lineup. Although, spoiler alert, I'll probably get to Tom Kim at 10.4 as my second golfer and go from there. Zach Johnson, salary's 8,100. He's at a 0.84. So that, again, you start to see this big drop even from the top 7 to 8, if I can count correctly on the fly. In terms of this list, I guess I should clarify, because there's golfers better than this with higher salaries. But Zach Johnson, again, 8,100 is the salary. T18 at Valero, T8 at the Masters, missed the cut at the Zurich, was T20 in his lone start here last year. He's 61st in tee to green the last 3 months, but again, not too bad, and I wouldn't be opposed to using him in DFS if I need to, although I'd prefer to go elsewhere. Isaiah Salinda's salary is 9,900. He's at a 0.83. T8 at Zurich after missing the cut at the Valero, but was 11th at the Houston Open. Irons are really hot or cold, no in between. It's better for betting, although I'm not saying I like him as an outright. Just not the best DFS profile, and his salary is pretty high for such a high variance player. And then rounding out the list here, Sami Valimaki, 8,800 is the salary. He's at a 0.79. Irons are great. He's getting at least 0.75 shots per round from approach. And 7 of his last 8. Henrik Norlander, salary is 8,700. He's at a 0.78. 1.0 strokes gained per round from approach in 7 straight measured events. Top 20 in 3 of his last 4 stroke play events. So another DFS name I like. Joel Damon, 0.76 at 8,800. T2 at Corrales Punta Cana. Had a 3-shot lead after 54 holes, but shot a 76 to close it out. And then Nikolai Højgaard at a 0.74. Salary's up at 10K, so he just fits in here. Second at Zurich with his brother last week. It's his first made cut in 5 starts. I'm not really there, honestly, with him, and the fact that it's really hard to play Scotty and multiple names in the 10K range. It just doesn't really work out for me. So I kind of prefer the value plays that I pointed out here. Any thoughts on current form?
I agree with you where it's the value plays who stand out. For Hitsatsune, both for DFS and for betting. I think that he is someone who is viable in both formats. $9,400 for DFS. We'll talk about him in the non-outright section later on. Norlander, quality DFS play 87. Damon, I think, is in play for DFS. I looked into him for a top 10 bet or a top 20 bet. Couldn't quite get there. Important narrative is that he just announced having a second baby. The baby has not occurred yet. Occurred is probably not the right verb, but it has not occurred yet, which means he's not tired yet. Because I never, the inputs vary from person to person for the new baby narrative, but new baby announcement narrative, that's a positive because he needs to earn more money to justify a second kid, or not justify, but pay for fund a second kid. I don't know. We'll just mess up all the verbs this entire segment, but new baby swag for Joel Damon. That's a positive. So Hitsatsune, Norlander, Damon, all guys in good form and all guys I like as value plays this week, which does, again, I need value plays like you said to get to Scotty. I'm going to have the value to get there this week because I think all those guys are pretty rock solid for this week.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's much else to add.
You don't want to expand on baby narratives?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Weather for this week, likely thunderstorms overnight Thursday into Friday morning, probably going to result in a delay before they tee off on Friday morning. I hope not, but we'll see about that. Winds will be high after the storm, so I don't think that anyone will have a huge advantage. They're not going to play during the storm. So I feel like we can play things pretty straight up from a tee time perspective, and then the winds will generally peak this week at around 10 miles per hour. So no major alterations for weather this week, but could be some delays on Friday morning. With that said, let's dive in now to the betting odds at FanDuel Sportsbook. Break down our favorite bets at FanDuel Sportsbook for the CJ CUP Byron Nelson. Brandon, let's begin things off with the outrights. Which outright bets do you think stand out most at FanDuel Sportsbook for this week?
I like Jordan Spieth to win the CJ CUP Byron Nelson at plus 1,800 on FanDuel Sportsbook. The profile by no means is flawless. It's very volatile, but again, volatility is welcomed whenever looking for an outright winner for a golf tournament, especially whenever Scotty Scheffler is sitting up there at the top at plus 270. You got to go out and be able to beat him. So you need to have high variance in your round-around scoring. Spieth is sixth in terms of his sort of realistic ceiling based on his standard deviation over the last 50 rounds, according to Data Golf. Spieth's 25th in strokes gained tee to green over the last 50, 39th in putting, but he's an above average putter from within 15 feet on tour this season. He's also a longer hitter than most people probably realize. I know people don't think he's accurate, which is, fair, but he's also kind of long off the tee or long enough to contend with the added distance to this course. Played well here in the past, 9th, 2nd, did miss the cut though in his most recent start, but also 3 straight top 20s at the Valero Texas Open, the Masters, and the RBC Heritage. Back in Texas, I know 18-1, making him the second favorite, might make you take a little bit of a pause, but it's still a good number for, again, a pretty wide open field behind just Scotty. If the putter doesn't really click for Scotty, or if someone else gets hot, Scotty's not even money or anything to win this. Spieth has what it takes to go out, post a lot of low numbers. And if he struggles with the driver, the irons, etc., we're talking outrights. We're not talking head to head against Scotty Scheffler, even odds, anything like that. 18-1 is a good enough number for what his profile contains. So for me, Spieth at 18-1 is where I'm starting this week.
The thing that I think makes Spieth most interesting, if you look at his more recent results, is the fact that he's had spike weeks in different strokes gain categories. The off the tee play has been pretty steady. Actually, it has had solid accuracy of late. I know the misses are bad misses, so that the accuracy percentage might be a bit misleading and not the reason people will rag on Spieth there. But his overall accuracy has been pretty good. Distance has been good, like you said. So the off the tee play has been solid, but he's had a couple spike weeks on approach, couple spike weeks putting. The around the green play has never been bad for him, honestly. So if he were to stack a couple of those, he's had them independent of each other, he's had the good putting weeks have come when he hasn't had good approach, et cetera, et cetera. If he were to get those things to coincide, that's the good recipe for upside. And that's why I looked hard into him, couldn't quite talk myself into it, but I absolutely will not talk you out of it. I would be thrilled if Spieth were to win this week, and I think that he has the profile to do so. So I didn't quite get there myself, but I fully endorse this and think it's a really fun bet for this week.
Yeah, I think you summed it up well with the spike weeks in different categories, but not putting it together. I think what I'm probably going to add into my sheet is, I've been talking about like standard deviations and ceilings in terms of total strokes gained, but just kind of look at the individual areas and see what that looks like as well, and kind of add those together because, I don't have the ranks here, but basically at Heritage popped with the irons and the driver, but not the short game. Masters was more short game and driver. Valero short game. Valspar irons, but everything else wasn't there. So like there's been good in all of his recent performances, just not all together.
And there's no consistently bad category for him. No consistently bad like set of clubs.
It's not consistently bad, correct? But there's always some bad.
Sure.
But that's kind of how golf works. And then for golfers who aren't, I love Spieth. He's not one of the top 5 guys, right? Like for everybody else outside of those top 5, there's some fluctuation, there's some variation. And like you said, it's not like he is always losing with the irons. Sometimes he is, top 10 in approach play. So for me, when I'm looking for someone to go beat Scotty, Spieth at 18-1, it makes enough sense for me to want to get there.
I am hoping he does it because if we get Jordan Spieth to win entering the PGA Championship the year that Rory McIlroy completes the career Grand Slam, that'd be a fire storyline. So I'm rooting for it because I like Jordan Spieth like as a person, but also like I think that storyline would be awesome. So you're on Jordan Spieth 18-1 to win this week. Which other outrights are you eyeing at FanDuel Sportsbook?
Taylor Pendrith to win the CJ CUP Byron Nelson at plus 3,000 on FanDuel Sportsbook. One of the best ball strikers, frankly, on tour, kind of full stop. Can say that much. Won here last year, but frankly, doesn't have that. It doesn't feel like that win last year is baked into the odds.
Yeah.
And if it is, that kind of implies he'd be like 35 or 40-1, which feels kind of too long for what his game is. So it almost feels like it's not totally factored in. Maybe it's just because Scotty's in the field, and so you just don't really see that. But he's top 6 in both strokes gained off the tee and strokes gained approach over his last 50 rounds. He's 16th in distance, so that all checks out. Where he struggles is with the short game, but it's mostly the wedges, where he's 138th in the field in strokes gained around the green. The putting's not as bad. He's 49th there. The weaker wedge play, it does bring in some volatility because he's got to get, like, he's not going to hit every green, so he's got to get up and down. But if you want a recipe for posting, a minus 25, and maybe it plays tougher this year due to the renovations, maybe not. But if you want someone who can go 20, 25 under, getting effectively the best ball striker in the field other than Scotty, who also can do some stuff with the putter well enough, then I'm good with Taylor Pendrith at 30-1.
Yeah, I've been on Pendrith a lot, as all of you know, throughout this entire spring. I just finally got annoyed enough with the wedges where I was like, all right, I gotta wait until you because it's not like he's like neutral or slightly below average. He is like horrendous around the green, and that's dragged him down. Because I look at the numbers over the past 50 rounds for the short game stuff, and he's actually been bad enough there where it has dragged him down finally. He's still at 0.92 strokes gained of stabilization, so which is not a bad number. But there are guys who are better in that regard at longer numbers. So I gravitated towards there, but I love Pendrith. The ball striking is sick. He has a distance. He's accurate off the tee too. So I endorse it. I will be very sad if he wins, unlike Spieth, because I will be missing out on the guy I bet a lot and lost a lot. Well, no, I'm probably about even on him because of the top tens.
Do you think around the green play matters much this week?
No, but has it mattered at every single event where he's lost a half stroke or more in 6 of his past 7 events?
Yeah, maybe, but
I don't know. I'll be there eventually again. I I need him to have one neutral week. That's all. He has not done that since the Farmers in January. One neutral week, and I'll be back in.
Hey, he just needs to hit the greens, and then it'll be good.
Yes. No pressure, Taylor. So you're on Taylor Pendra 30-1 and Jordan Spieth 18-1 to win for this week. I've only got one outright. Personally, it's one I alluded to earlier on. That's Jacob Bridgman at 55-1 to win the CJ Cup. And the reason I'm on Bridgman is he's had a lot of high-end finishes recently. He was second at the Cognizant Classic. He was third at the Valspar, 10th at the Zurich. You know, that is what it is. Kind of like you said, I'll factor it in when it suits my purpose and ignore it when not. But the irons for Bridgman have never been a strong point for him. He's been more of a short game guy that's led to his good finishes. But the irons outside of the RPC heritage have been pretty good recently. The putting is awesome. And when you look at that smaller sample on the approach play combined with the longer sample on the short game, he actually does grade out pretty well. He's actually second in strokes gained and stabilization behind just Scotty Scheffler in this field. You also did list him in the past 3 months as far as being a guy with really good form. So he looks good in various metrics. I believe in the past 6 months, he's still pretty solid there as well. 0.96 strokes gained per round there. So not, top 2 or anything in that metric in that time, but still pretty good. So I like Bridgman 55-1. I think it's a very fair number for him. And honestly, it is weird to have only one outright and that outright be 55-1, but based on my concerns about that second tier, I'm okay with making Bridgman be that one guy for me. What are your thoughts on Jacob Bridgman for this week?
I looked at him too. My model doesn't hate him, but it's just too reliant on the putter, which can go out and win him a week. That's not lost on me, but I need a little bit more. And if I'm going in this range, I prefer Jake Knapp, but I much prefer Tom Kim as well. I'll talk more about Kim in a second. I was looking at Knapp versus Bridgman.
I'll take that
to see if I could.
Knapp was really good here last year, but I'll take that bet for sure.
So Knapp is longer off the tee and a better iron player.
Bridgman is better in strokes gained off the tee.
Sure. Because Knapp just hits it all over the place. So what are we doing? Finish position? Because we're talking betting here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll throw that on the list.
Okay. I just guaranteed Jacob Bridgman a win over Jake Knapp. So at least one golfer in the field down, only 154 to go for Jacob Bridgman. So my lone outright, Jacob Bridgman 55-1. You alluded to your favorite or your first non-outright for this week, Tom Kim. What put Tom Kim on your radar for this week, and which market is your preferred market for Kim?
Top 10 for Tom Kim, although 60-1 is pretty reasonable, honestly, for, again, a field that is incredibly top heavy due to one name. But I don't get Tom Kim being like listed longer than someone like Bridgman and frankly Jake Knapp, honestly, because they're more putter reliant. Tom Kim over the last 50 rounds is third in the field in strokes gained approach. I know he's not like super long off the tee, but he's a positive by a couple yards compared to like the world average male professional golfer, according to Data Golf and their true strokes gained query. Now, the driver itself, just okay. The wedges right now, sort of just okay. But if you combine everything, he's the 10th best tee to green golfer in this field over the last 50 rounds. The putter has not been particularly good in terms of strokes gained. The putter also from, distance splits based on from within 15 feet, not particularly good either. So I don't love that. That does have me looking mostly for the top 10 at plus 500. But again, you want some volatility? Top 3 iron player over a long sample, top 10 tee to green player, even with some, more neutral off the tee and around the green play. And then it's putting. It's not like Tom Kim's never gained strokes with the putter. He's actually gained strokes with the putter in each of his last 2 events when his ball striking kind of eluded him. So maybe it's like he knew the putter needed some work, so he spent some more time on that. The ball striking took a little bit of a hit at Valero and the Masters. But honestly, I've bet Tom Kim a lot more than I'd like to admit, but he's now back to a number where it's hard not to go there one more time.
Well, I think it's in line with the Spieth bet, where it's like, oh, you're betting on a name, but it's like when that name comes with like a long-term quality form, you know that like over a large enough sample, Tom Kim will eventually gravitate to where a 5-1 looks really weird. I don't think that's a bad idea. So you're betting on a name, but you're betting on a name because you know long-term that golfer is very good. And like you said, the putter was better, both at Augusta and the Valero Texas Open. Irons were not there for either of those, but it's a 6-round sample. We know that approach doesn't stabilize in 6 rounds. We know putting doesn't either. But there is that path. So although I'm not there on Kim, I fully understand it. And like, I think that the thought process of it's a tournament, a lot of guys. Tom Kim can be a dude. And I think that's pretty intriguing. So I don't mind getting to Kim. I didn't get there myself, but I don't mind it at 5-1 for a top 10.
Yeah, Tom Kim could go final group with Scotty and either disappear or go step on Scotty's neck potentially. Although
I think they're friends.
Yeah,
but step on his neck.
I don't know. You didn't watch TGL, but Tom Kim, he took TGL pretty seriously. So
good, proud of him.
He's competitive.
Right. Tom Kim 5-1, your first non-hour. What else you like in there at FanDuel Sportsbook?
We go for a top 20 with Henrik Norlander, a name that we've talked about here and there, less so recently, but he has gained strokes with his approach play in 8 straight starts and at least 1.0 strokes per round in 7 straight. If you remember, we were talking about that for Sepp Straka a couple weeks back. Didn't pan out, but that's an elite number to be doing consistently. The rest of the game's not quite there. Looks like he's now plus 350, so still good with that, but looks like someone else has been taking note of Henrik Norlander's iron play as well, because that's what's going to get you there. And that good iron play has led to some good enough finishes, 4 top 20s in that 8 event span. You know, he's more accurate than long. He's pretty short off the tee. That's not lost on me. He has played here 3 times to sort of middling results. Missed the cut, T34 and 64th, but right now, he's actually one of the better ball strikers in the field, and all you're asking for is a top 20. So give you some leeway for the driver, struggles of being shorter. You can live with that. You can live with not as good of a short game as he is a ball striker. So plus 350, still see it with Henrik Norlander to finish top 20 at the CJ CUP Byron Nelson.
I like Norlander too. I like it more for DFS than for betting. $8,700 his salary for DFS, but I see it with betting too. So I think that does make sense. As you mentioned, plus 350 for Norlander right now to finish top 20 at FanDuel Sportsbook, in addition to the Tom Kim top 10. I'm going to start with my top 20, as I have 3 non-outrights for this week, the others being top 10s. Let's start things off, though, by talking about Max McGreevy, who is 4-1 for a top 20 at FanDuel Sportsbook, despite the fact that ball striking for him has been really good ever since he graduated to the PGA Tour. If you look at the past 6 months of data golf, he is 0.30 strokes gained per round off the tee and at 0.55 on approach per round in that span. That's really solid ball striking in 2 separate categories. He still has missed cuts due to the putting, and his around the green play is not good, but it's not the toughest field. It's only a top 20. I don't think we're asking a whole lot out of Max McGreevy, and someone with his ball striking having odds this long, that's always going to be pretty hard for me to turn down. So I like Max McGreevy 4-1 for a top 20 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Brandon, any thoughts for you on McGreevy for this week?
Yeah, 10th best ball striker in the field over the last 50 rounds. Short game, as as we know, not quite there. Not exactly due for putting regression. If anything, might be getting a little bit lucky there. But I think that there's enough at an event where you got to go low to target really good ball strikers who can get, some tap-in birdies. So McGreevy plus 400. I'm not there personally, but I understand the case for it.
All right. Tap it in, Max. Let's do that. 4-1 for a top 20 for him. Other 2, as I mentioned, are going to be top 10 bets for me. A couple of guys we alluded to earlier on, or at least one we alluded to early on, Ryohei Satsune, and he is currently sitting at 6-1 at FanDuel Sportsbook to finish inside the top 10. Just really good results for Hitsatsune recently. He's doing with the irons, but the driver can be good as well. not the worst short game for Hitsatsune. He finished 13th here last year, so good course knowledge. Primarily did that via the short game, but again, it's the ball striking that primarily puts me on Hitsatsune, and I like the upside a lot for this price 6-1 for a top 10 for Hitsatsune. Other top 10 for me is Ryan Gerard. He is sitting at plus 550 or 5-1. He is shortened for a top 10. Still okay with that. Less enthused at 5-1, but still fine with it at plus 550. And the reason I'm there on Gerard is he has good irons and a good putter. It should be as simple as that, honestly, when you're plus 500 for a top 10. Irons haven't been as good the past few weeks, but the short game has picked up a bit in that time, which is reassuring, where if he doesn't do well in one area, he can make up for it elsewhere. He's a balanced driver, doesn't really excel either with distance or accuracy, but also is not bad with either. If the irons for Gerard can get back to where he was in March, early April, he can definitely do this for sure, even at a shortened number. So Ryan Gerard, top 10, 5-1. Ryo Hitsatsune, top 10, 6-1. My two other non-outrights, in addition to Max McGreevy, top 24-1. I know you already mentioned Hitsatsune, but any thoughts for you on Gerard this week?
Yeah, Gerard, above average putter from within 15 feet. Great putter right now from outside that, but you still want to see the within 15 feet checking out, which it does for him. And then fifth in strokes gained per shot from 150 plus, which is one of the key stats I mentioned over the last 12 months, I should clarify. And that comes from Data Golf and their approach skill tool, which is super sick, but I think he checks enough boxes. I like him. I took a look at him as well. We're going to do a salary scroll and I'll learn exactly what his salary is.
91, I believe.
I think it was okay. I thought it was higher than that. Ryan Gerard.
Oh, is he 10? No, he's
10
too.
too.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Who am I thinking of 91? Oh, Lee Hodges is 91. Same thing, right?
Yeah. I looked at him too, but
I have Lee Hodges on my list and Ryan Gerard, honestly. So yeah, I agree with that. Okay. Let's dive in now to the DFS section of the show. We alluded to Scotty Scheffler earlier on, where he's a guy where honestly, you just kind of set it and forget it for DFS this week. Salary is $14,000. I don't care. To be honest, I think that's a fair salary. I don't see a lot of FOMO in the second tier either. So to me, Brandon, I feel like I just lock in Scotty and go from there. You kind of on the same page this week?
Yeah, and the heavy majority of my lineups are head-to-head will be a 5v5 at best. I understand the case.
4v4 at best. I think we'll both be on Hitsatsune based on, and potentially Norlander based on our discussions so far. So I think it's a 3v3 at best.
All right.
Are you taking notes? Were you writing that down?
No, I was going to launch into a meme, but I'll save it and I'll just say it after the show. But yeah, Scotty, like honestly, I don't even understand. Well, I understand the case of fading him in a tournament. Not a full fade. That's pretty scary, but some lineups without him, it's automatically going to make you different. And if this is the week that he misses the cut, I mean, there's so much leverage to be had, but long-term, I don't think it's a good enough strategy to avoid him. So one of the best DFS plays we've seen in a long time, and I'm not going to complicate it more than that.
I agree. So we just go with Scotty at 14,000. Honestly, I'm okay skipping over the entire 11,000 range.
So I mean,
if
you plug in Scotty, you get 9,200 left for 5 golfers.
Yeah.
Even if we go, who's the lowest? Just for simplicity, we'll say Ben Griffin.
Sure.
Who's the lowest in the 11K range? You're down to 8,700, which I guess isn't that different because the lower 9 and upper 9s, as we'll talk about, not the most appealing.
Sure.
So you could still target the 8,000 range, but in that case, I would be looking to get to Spieth, and then I'm down to 85, 25, and then it gets like.
I mean, McGreevy's 83. I could make an 85, 25 work personally. It'd be like one lineup. It's like, okay, I think Spieth, Scheffler dominate because of the Texas narrative, nothing else. I could do that potentially.
But it'd be like Zach one Johnson lineup, probably. So McGreevy and Zach Johnson paired with that gets you 88.50, which can work.
Yeah.
So it is doable.
Yeah, it is.
But you're asking Scheffler and Spieth basically to finish 1-2, or
in which case just bet the exacta, like both the exactas, like just do that.
So other than that, I mean, clearly Spieth's my preferred play in the 11K range, but
yeah,
even over Pendrith, I think the next name I'm actually interested in that I want to play actively is Tom Kim at 10-4 and try to make him my second stud.
interesting.
Which is strange to think. Why?
Over Bridgman? You don't like Bridgman for DFS at 10-6?
Not compared to Tom Kim at 10-4.
Bet me.
Head okay. Well, can I wait? Let me complain that I'm giving up 200 in salary first, like you would.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to accept the bet. You can say no. No one's forcing you.
Are we doing? So we're doing FanDuel points.
Yeah. So I had 2 Bridgman bets. This might be bad.
And I don't even dislike them, but
on top of my actual Bridgman bets, I do just the hour to do a top 10 too. I did not do a top 10, so that does help. Okay, it's 3 total bets on Bridgman this week for me. What could go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, let me Tom Kim and Bridgman. So, yeah, I like that head to head.
Famous last words.
I mean, Bridgman's he's got to do a lot with the putter. Tom Kim's got to make some putts though too, but
Jacob McCarthy gonna wreck Tom Kim this week.
I would rather go Mackenzie Hughes than Jacob Bridgman, maybe.
I can't add a 4th one. I can't do this. You just hate Jacob Bridgman. That's what I'm getting out of this segment.
No, actually, I don't mind him. I do like Mackenzie Hughes though, but
okay, fine. Sell me on Tom Kim at 10-4.
Well, like I laid out before, top 3 iron player over the last 50 rounds, not as short as people probably think, and he's played here 3 times. The results have been just sort of okay, but he's got a top 20 back in 2022, and if you're looking at the recent finishes, you're kind of probably doing yourself a disservice because the putting was just so bad. It's not going to stay that bad forever. He's a pretty good long-term putter, although in fairness, for the last 2 years, it's been neutral to slightly negative. Before that was very good. And he's still one of the better iron players long-term. So I would rather bank on long-term iron play than just mediocre iron play and a great putter, which is what you get for a lot of these names here.
Iron play has been better for Bridgman recently. Been trending up a little bit there.
I was talking about the whole range. There's a lot of guys with imperfect games.
Sure.
And Kim is the standout iron player in this tier.
He definitely is. But Bridgman, only 25. He's shown some better irons recently, not at the RBC Heritage. Please ignore that one event. That does not fit my narrative. But slightly better irons recently. I think the improvements are pretty legit. The short game is locked in. So I do like him at 10-6. I also don't mind Gerard at 10-2. I know I thought he was 91, which would have made him much more appealing.
Yeah.
But at 10-2, it's still fine because if I've got Scotty in the lineup, I don't need my guy to win. I need a really solid performance. I think that I can get that from Gerard at 10-2, where I think he's one of the final guys before there's kind of a teardrop. It's Bridgman, Tom Kim, I'll give you. Ryan Gerard at 10-2, and I think Gerard's kind of half tier below those guys. But then I think there's a pretty big fall off where I don't really want to use anybody until I get to Taylor Moore at 95. So if I get in this range, I'll take Bridgman. If I'm trying to get back up to Tom or to Bridgman as my second golfer, have to settle for Gerard, that's fine. And a more balanced Scotty lineup, that's okay too. But do not mind Gerard at 10-2 is another name here, but preference is for Bridgman at 10-6.
Yeah, I don't mind him, but I'm not going to get there enough.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So let's go to the upper 9 range. I don't feel the need to prioritize anybody here. Do you get the same vibe from this tier?
Yeah, I've been looking. I don't see it enough.
Yeah.
Harry Hall probably at 97, or I guess Seamus at 99 would be the 2 names I would be most likely to click on, but I think at that rate, I'd rather go back down to try to get back up to even a Gerard or Bridgman, who, again, I don't dislike. I just like Tom Kim more, and I can't play Tom Kim 3 times. So
I looked at Alex Smalley, but the past month has been really concerning. He had that stretch heading into the Players where he was playing really good golf, and it's kind of fallen off the face of the earth since then. I still have some interest because it's a small sample, but that did definitely put a damper on it. So not entirely opposed to Smalley, but Taylor Moore is the next guy up for me, is a guy I actually want to use.
Yeah. It's just not the most appealing range till we get to Taylor Moore.
Yeah.
Also, I forgot to bring this up because we were fighting and I was taking notes on the Tom Kim bet, but he resides in Dallas, for what it's worth.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay. Well, can I void my
Nope.
I mean, house rules state that if Brandon does not give Jim pertinent info before he makes a bet, the bet is void. That's in the house rules. I'm sorry. You should have read them. Not my problem. I don't know. Okay. Taylor Moore 95. Really good off the tee. Short game solid. Irons inconsistent, but can be good. And when they're bad, he can still make up for it at times with the other stuff. So I like Moore at 95. I like Heath Satsune more at 94, but I'll just be in this range a lot because that's where you wind up inherently with Scotty. So I like Moore, Heath Satsune, both two guys to me who stand out quite a bit. What's your thoughts in this range?
Yep, feel the same. Those are the two names that I'm trying to get to. It's really hard with Scotty and a Scotty Tom Kim start, even to get here, because then you're still living in that low 8K range, which is just illustrative of the fact that you got to pick and choose. And like I did with the Masters, I was like, I can get enough from Colin Morikawa instead of Scotty or Rory, those types of things. Bumping away from Scotty to sort of get to a Taylor Moore instead of, I don't know, take your pick. Well, I don't know, it's at 2,100. It doesn't work out. So I can't bump off a Scotty. Those are the two names that I'm looking at most. Although I might need to make a concession and bump down from one of them. If I'm doing that, I'd rather play Rio than Taylor Moore.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I am with that.
I agree where I prefer Heath Satsune over Moore personally, between the two, but I like both and will be on both for sure. Other guy in this 9,000 range who I did have some interest in is Lee Hodges 91. He's cooled off a bit recently, but still the overall form, if you look at the past 6 months, is solid. Struggled at the Valero. That was all at the putter, but the ball striking was still good. Solid stretch of putting before that, which seems probably pretty fluky, but he can putt well. So I don't love Lee Hodges. I like Heath Satsune a lot more, but again, I'll just be in this range a lot. So Hodges is a guy I'll consider at 91 for this week.
Lee Hodges, percentile rank over under, within 15 feet this season, over under 50th percentile. What do you think?
Well, he had the good stretch before this past week. So he was either killing it with lag putting and gaining there, or the last week was an aberration. You gave me 50th. I'm going to take under because his long-term profile is not good.
He is 90th percentile.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Lee Hodges 91, a lot more attractive now. I'll take that.
Yeah, he's one of the better, that's factored into my DFS model. He's one of the better values. So
okay, he's
probably going to be someone I try to get to as well.
Okay, I like it. Let's get to 9,000 and lower. Who are the value plays who are on your mind this week?
We kind of talked about a lot of them already, but I would say Matt Kuchar at 89, Joel Damon at 88, Sammy Valimaki at 88 as well, and Henrik Norlander at 87, with a preference probably an inverse order of those, where it's Norlander, Valimaki, Damon, and Kuchar. But that's a lot of names to consider.
Yeah. And Valimaki's just because the irons are too good to pass up, basically.
Yeah. It's a similar case for Norlander. And again, I want some good iron play whenever I can get it.
Yeah. And Damon's ball striking's been pretty good recently too. I do like that he played last week after that collapse at the Corrales. Like he at least has been on a golf course to kind of shake the cobwebs after that tough ending. So that's positive. Again, new baby narrative also in play, or new future baby for Damon in play for him too. I probably would take him over Valimaki personally, but I think that all three in play, like you alluded to, I'm not high on Kuchar personally, but like I like those guys. Other value play I do like is McGreevy, $8,300, because if I decide to bump all the way down here to McGreevy at 83, that gives me a lot more flexibility with Scotty lineups to maybe get back to Bridgman, I guess, at 10-6. I've got 90-33 left. If I start with Scotty, McGreevy, and Bridgman, I can make that work based on how much I like Norlander and the other guys. So I think that I'll probably have McGreevy. I won't have him in my head-to-head against you because the short game's bad enough where I wouldn't really want to do that. But like, if I have one tournament lineup, it's a tournament specifically, I'd be okay having McGreevy in there in order to get some more firepower into that one. So Damon, Norlander, McGreevy, with Norlander being my favorite, followed by Damon, then followed by McGreevy, my top value plays this week.
Yeah, and I'll just shout out Zach Johnson as like a desperation kind of. Been golfing better. Should still be in a relatively easy course. And I mean, he just played really well at a long track at Augusta, which I know is not super fair to compare because he's played, that's such a course knowledge dependent course, but I think it's fine enough if you need to. I would rather not, but if I need to, maybe he makes a Scotty, Spieth lineup work. I'll roll the dice every now and then.
I would rather not, but if I need to, sums up my feelings on a lot of guys for this week. So any final DFS thoughts for you, and who are your loves this week?
Loves are Scotty, clearly. I would say Tom Kim, Ryo Hisatsune, and it feels kind of strange, but Henrik Norlander, I guess.
Yeah.
87.
I have everyone there except for Tom Kim. I think that Scheffler, Hisatsune, and Norlander are my only loves this week. Strong like for Damon, strong like for Taylor Moore, pretty strong like for Bridgman as well. But they're more likes than loves. The guys I like, I can guarantee will be my head-to-head against you are Scheffler, Hisatsune, and Henrik Norlander for this week. Let's finish up with our win picks contest based on the betting odds over at FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm not going to lie. I can't remember what I did 2 weeks ago, much less who won the bobble hat. So I'm assuming it's you based on the way things have gone over the course of our entire golf head-to-head life. And you're nodding your head. So you get to pick first. Or do you want first and fourth or second and third?
I've been thinking about this one.
Yeah,
because I feel like you're going to pull a Jim and swoop in and scoop my guy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go second and third.
Why would you do that? Why would you let me pull a Jim when you know I'm going to do it?
Because I then can be really angry if you do it.
Oh, I'm taking Spieth because I told you he's the top guy in that range. I only had one outright that I liked.
Oh my gosh.
This all set up for me to do exactly what you thought I was going to do.
So scummy.
I thought about telling you I was going to do that during the betting section. I was like, he might be my win pick.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
A little bit, but also I want to win, and I've got a lead I got to protect because you got the JT win.
Disgusting.
Russell Henley shaking his boots up here. So it's I'm just saying.
Fine.
I'm just saying.
I'll take Taylor. I thought you were going to take Taylor Pendrith, honestly, and I was okay with that, but I wanted to make sure I got I was hoping to get both. But because there's 3 names I liked, I wanted to ensure that
I told you I haven't considered Pendrith this week. I slacked you saying I'm not going to bet Pendrith this week, guaranteeing that he wins. I told you
you wouldn't take him here.
I told you I was considering Spieth.
All right, I'm taking Taylor Pendrith and Tom Kim. So you can do what you want from here.
I have hid nothing from you. I have hid nothing. I have been
Jacob
fully
Bridgman
transparent throughout this process. Yeah, I want Bridgman. I have been fully transparent throughout this process.
All right, let's wrap it up.
That we're cheering for Jordan Spieth. I have not bet him myself, but I might need to do so we can be extra happy when Jordan Spieth does eventually win. That is all that we have here for this week for TPC Craig Ranch and the CJ CUP Byron Nelson. Should be a pretty fun event. I mentioned before that we have the Kentucky Derby this week. If you want some thoughts on the Derby, we're going to break down that over on Covering the Spread with Christina Blacker of FanDuel TV. She will join me to break down both the Derby, but also the Kentucky Oaks. 2 separate shows on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. Also on the proper FanDuel YouTube page, like FanDuel YouTube page. Check out that over there. But also subscribe to the FanDuel Research Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts, and check us out on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. Brandon, people have questions for you on social media. Where can they find you there?
I'm on X at Gdula13, GDULA13, and on Blue Sky at Gdula.
You sound mad.
I just figured you were going to take Pendrith and then at least get like Spieth, but I was hoping that maybe you go.
You got to remember my Monday slacks telling you I'm not going to bet Pendrith this week. You got to remember.
Again, it's different. You didn't.
The breadcrumbs were laid out. The breadcrumbs were laid out.
Show up. I'm sick of this.
The breadcrumbs were laid out. I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work in the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your bets and your DFS lineups for the CJ CUP Byron Nelson. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been The Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast.